This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. This is your first time tuning in. Welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals and transportation-related topics, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Today's show is going to be a little bit, and by that, I mean a lot bit different than what we normally talk about here on the show, but it's very relevant for the transportation industry. I have never hid my support for the veterans of this country and putting America first and everything. And the individuals that are out there putting their lives on the line for us deserve the utmost attention. And, a really good friend of mine is raising some money for a cause that I hold near and dear to my heart. And we're going to talk about this today and kind of break this down. So I have my good friend, Matt Parker, on the show today. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
No, absolutely, man. And, obviously I always start the show by asking people a little bit about like how they got their start in freight and everything, man. But you and I have known each other since the 6th grade.
That is correct.
You have a, leaving small town America, you took the route that I think like a lot of guys do across the country, right? Where it's like it's military is the natural first step for a lot of guys. I know we graduated with a couple of other guys as well that took that route as well. So let's kind of give some people the background there, man.
Yeah, actually, I have like a very unique story. As you know, I was actually adopted by a U.S. soldier and his wife at birth out of Turkey. And on my dad's side of the family, they have fought in every war going back to the French and Indian War, so they can trace their lineage to our revolution. And my path to the Army wasn't predetermined, as though many might assume. When I was a young lad, my father showed me Saving Private Ryan, probably before his age appropriate. And I remember having a debate with him about service and, being young and naive and saying that these guys were drafted. We got in a huge fight over it. And I remember telling him that if America was at war, I would join. Mm-hmm. And obviously on 9/11, I knew almost immediately after that second plane hit when we were watching in class that I was going to go. So, I think that's kind of my lineage of like how I got there. I think for those who haven't served, everyone asks me what it's like. And I tell them, if you ever played golf, it's a lot like golf. Meaning that you can play 17 and a half holes like crap, and you hit that one shot in that 18th hole, and you're like, it's the best day ever. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of what the service was like, a lot of hard times. But the one thing they don't tell you is getting out is infinitely harder than getting in.
What do you mean by that? Because, I think that people hear a lot of these stories, Matt, and, I've met a lot of individuals that are inside of the transportation industry that are veterans, and they've all kind of talked about that, but not like in depth, and so like what do you mean by that? Is it like a lot like when you're a part of a team and you have that mission, and then you feel like you don't have that anymore. Is that part of it, or kind of explain that a little?
Yeah, like that is definitely like a high level. I'll give you like kind of like a more specific example to me. So, my first duty station, I left for the Army 2 weeks after graduating high school, and I was sent to Korea, which is the hardship tour, and I was in Bravo 138 Field Artillery. Um, I was young, 18, just an 18-year-old boy, and I got to meet some of the finest leaders that this country has to offer. I'll forget some of them, but the key ones that always like haunt me are Sergeant Barry, Sergeant Flativo, Sergeant Fulmer, Drumheller, Spain, and like each one of these men forever changed how I view life, and they've altered my trajectory. Sergeant Barry taught me how to lead with kindness, and how to lead with your heart. Flatibo and Murphy, they taught me how to live a life of honor, like leading by example, doing the right thing every single time, even when it's difficult and you don't want to. And like Sergeant Fulmer, showed me the importance of completing the mission no matter the obstacle, and like the true meaning of putting the men before yourself. And all of them taught me that to lead men or women, you need to demonstrate that you would sacrifice yourself. And the interesting thing about these leaders is that they were all willing to demonstrate to us early on that they were willing to sacrifice for us. And because of that, we never would let them. Like if I ever made a mistake in the Army, I didn't feel bad for the punishment that was going to happen. And as these former NCOs can tell you, they forced me to do lots of push-ups. I had a big mouth when I was younger, and but they they just changed the way you think about things. And because they were willing to show that they would sacrifice for us, we would never want them to sacrifice. And when I made a mistake, I felt bad because I let them down. So you have this there's this idea, people watch Band of Brothers, whatever, and they think like this brotherhood just naturally forms, and it doesn't. I had any of the guys that I served with in 138, they all either went on to other duty stations, or they were in another duty station. A couple of them deployed to Iraq during the initial invasion, and all of them will tell you that we just had something special there. So when you get out, that brotherhood is gone. You don't have anyone there sitting next to you anymore, making sure that you're doing the right thing, or something that you're like living up towards. Like, there's a lot of just regular enlisted guys like Botkins, Rush, Dixon, Rios, Segerson, Carrigy, Austin, that were older than me. And they taught me what it's like to be a team player, right? Like peer on peer correction. You don't have that anymore. And it's kind of hard to find like what your purpose is. Most of us can go to college ahead of time. So we struggle to find a purpose, and then we get out. I know some of my NCOs have gotten out. For some reason, corporate America doesn't think that they can manage an aisle at Home Depot, but they were able to manage a section in war. So there's like a huge gap between the skills that these guys have and the jobs that they're able to get, because people don't understand that actually, no, this guy is qualified for this.
Yeah.
And there's no more like guidance, if you will. And veterans kind of struggle connecting with each other, I think, and keeping those bonds going.
Do you think that's a major miss by a lot of companies here in the United States? And like, what do you think is the reason? Because like, I think we've, at least like when we graduated high school, Matt, like college was like the big push, right? Like you got to go to college, you got to go to college. That's the only path to success in life.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, myself included, took out way more student loans than I needed, financial irresponsibility. And now here I am 20 plus years later, and I'm like, why did I pay for that degree? And do you think though, that, like, and I'm saying this because do you think that's kind of like where leadership is in corporate America still is there still that big believer that you need to go to college, and then they're overlooking that real tangible experience that our veterans have out there, where it's like you serve, like I look at it like one of my good friends, he's a logistics manager in the United States here. He did logistics in the military for 20 years, and he came in and he was able to, but he got lucky because he said that he knew people at that company. He's like, I don't know if I would have got this role at that level right away, even though I had 20 years experience in the military doing this exact job. Do you think that companies need to stop looking at those old school methods of, oh, you need 20 years experience in this desk, and then they're just
Yeah.
discrediting the 20 years that they did that job in the military?
Yeah, I know. Like even if it's less than 20 years,
Yeah.
I think they do discredit it because they don't understand it. And I think that honestly, like there's part of that responsibility on the veteran themselves too. Everyone, like, just a little additional background. I got my undergrad degree from Temple University and an MBA from NYU. And taking resume writing classes, everyone tends to downplay what they do, right? Like in your head, you kind of like don't want to overhype. I think that's to the next level with veterans, where they really downplay what they did, and they don't understand that at an early age they actually had way more responsibility than the average person. Like, you know, honestly, even today, I look at some of the things I was responsible for, and I've had more responsibility at 18 than grown men at 40.
Yeah.
And I think there's just this gap, and maybe leaders of companies need to bring in other veterans to help them assess like what this guy's good at. I made my living working on Wall Street for a while, and I still deal with investors now. And if I were to start my own firm, there's not one guy on this list that I wouldn't hire to help get stuff done, whether it's operations. They don't have to know things about operations, but I know that they know how to go find the answer and how to get things done and how to push things forward. And they just have like I won't lose like mindset, where a lot of jobs in corporate America we can't do. Then you're like, well, why can't we do it? Well, it's hard.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So what if it's hard? That's the point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a big portion of it. So yeah, like I think this kind of like, and I think in general, a lot of people say like support the veterans, but all they do to really support them is say thank you for your service.
Mhm.
They're not really doing much more than that, and I think that helps with this unemployment rate and veteran suicide, which we'll get into today. Like I'm not sure any of your listeners know, but in the wars in the U.S. or between in Iraq and Afghanistan, we lost about 6,800 due to combat related injuries, and since 9/11, over 140,000 veterans have killed themselves. So that's like 20 times more. And I think part of that is we're not as welcoming as a society to these veterans when they get out. We expect them to act the same way as people do in corporate America, that they're going to have the same mindset, same attitude, same norms, but they're not going to have those same norms, right? And there's this unacceptance of anything outside of the normal behavior in corporate America, and a lack of tolerance for going, hey, like maybe this guy views things differently. Maybe he jokes around in a different way because he has, life altering experiences that I can never understand.
How did we get to this point though, Matt? And I know this is a very open-ended question, but it seems like at times they are overlooked. Like I would say if there's any demographic of individual in this country today that has a megaphone to say like, hey, we need help, it is our veteran community. And it's seemingly there are a lot of people who are, again, like we're conditioned to say thank you for our service, but like that's kind of like where it stops. And I don't know, again, I'm not a veteran, but like it does it ever seem like it's just like empty words to a lot of these individuals, and they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you, but why can't I get the help that I actually need?
Yeah, I think that if you look at like the VA and like the VA scandals that have happened in the past, it's problematic. I think both sides leverage veterans for political gain. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
actually, in Trump's first administration, he signed the VA Accountability Act. I don't know if people remember, but back in Arizona, there was a secret wait list where veterans died waiting for care. And it seems like they only want to give support when it's politically advantageous. You ask like how we got here, and I'm reminded of this quote, and I think this quote kind of summarizes it. For those who serve, freedom has a taste, the protected will never know.
Mm-hmm.
And I do find that very true. Um, for me, being in the military was the greatest thing that I ever did in my life, and I'm so blessed. As you know, was kind of troubled in high school towards the end and was heading down the wrong path. And those leaders that I had they changed my life. I didn't have good role models growing up, for a big part of it. And the guys that I mentioned earlier, like each one of them, their own unique way, like helped shape who I became. And I know, ironically enough, the only reason I decided to go to college is I was in my final duty station in Oklahoma, and I met this officer that I thought was really stupid. And I went, "Hey, sir, you went to college?" And he goes, "Yeah." I'm like, I looked at him like, "Well, if you could do it, I could do it." And he goes, "What does that mean, Parker?" And I'm like, "Exactly what it sounds like." And like, and then I just turned around and walked away. And I think he was like, "Wait, did this guy just call me dumb?" Um, I'm like, so, but yeah, it's really unfortunate. And I think I would love for there to be a national dialogue on how we can help our veterans. Um, 44% of, like, here's just some like additional facts for you on like what veterans are facing. 44% of veterans report that transitioning to civilian life is difficult. And it really is. Especially if you're a single guy getting out, like you never got married, like you don't connect anymore with people that you knew in high school. It's like this weird thing. You're 22, 23, going on 40 for some reason. So like you go to college and it's hard, and maybe you don't know about different types of jobs, because the Army does a very bad job of helping soldiers transition and showing them the possibilities that they could do, unfortunately. And that definitely needs to get improved. Like I already said, more than 60% of veterans were either underemployed or unemployed. 65% of veterans, post 9/11 veterans, have indicated that it took them a minimum of 3 years to kind of feel partially transitioned out. Um, and like I already said, like the suicide rate is 2 times higher than the general population. Right now, today, 18 to 22 veterans a day kill themselves.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't the wars in Afghanistan or Iraq that did it. It's coming back and feeling isolated, that lack of purpose, that lack of brotherhood. Um, like these men I love so much. And words can never really fully describe like how much I love these guys. Um, and I never really felt anything like that outside of it. And it's kind of one of the weird things of life. You don't really realize what you have until
Yeah.
it's gone. And I remember getting out and feeling relieved as I drove home back to Wisconsin. But I remember getting back home and feeling like I made this huge mistake, that I
Yeah.
just left my brothers. And I talked to, I will get into a little bit later, one of our brothers, Sergeant Michael Murphy, succumbed to his wounds, his hidden wounds recently. And I was talking with a couple of my buddies and asked them, like, what was it like getting out? And unanimously, everyone just kind of had this feeling like, I just quit on my guys. Even though it's horrible, and or not horrible, even though it's like not an ideal situation to be in, and you're just excited to get out. After the dust settles, you're like, I just left my guys, and that's just really hard to deal with, I think.
Yeah, it's I think there's a lot of individuals out there who, after major life changes like that, they do go through that period of feeling, less than, or like they lost their purpose and everything. And, it's to me, it's like when we sit back and we look, you hear that number 18 to 22 veterans a day. And then, you see some of these campaigns that come about where it's like there's a bunch of people who are like, doing the push-ups and stuff like that to honor. But it's also like, well, why do we stop there? And it's like, I look at it is like what we need to do more, I think, as a society here, to bring and reintegrate them back into into the civilian life. And I'm not going to get into the government here too much, but I think that it's been proven to a lot of us, veterans and non-veterans, that like it's on us, right? Like it's
Yes.
on us as citizens to step up and really help and push these narratives forward, and push a lot of this forward, because nobody's coming, right? Like I've just accepted that the older I've gotten, like nobody's coming to do anything. Like we were raised to feel and think a certain way, but then it's like the older you get, the more you realize, like, damn, those are just all empty words. And
Yep.
when you reached out to me about the cause that you're raising money for today, I wanted to help in ways that I'm like, all right, I need to do more, and what more can I do to get this message out? And I'm fortunate you were able to come on the show today to talk about this, because going through that. And I remember, when it happened and you called and, when we were talking about it this last weekend, and it's just like, how did he get there, and like, is this one of those things where, this is another opportunity that society is, I don't want any of this stuff to be a fad, where it's like,
Yeah.
people are going to post about it a few times and then people are going to go back to their daily lives because there's another headline that pisses them off and they got to put in a thing out there. So it's like, what is this cause though, Matt, that
Yeah.
you're here to talk about and raise money for today?
Yeah. We started, the men of Bravo 138 started a GoFundMe. We lost one of our brothers the other week, due to the hidden wounds of war. Uh, he served with us in artillery and then spent the last 14 years of his 20-year career in Army Special Operations Command, deploying to Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, North Africa. And unfortunately, he left behind two children, Mallory and Ellie. Mallory's 19. She dreams about being an attorney. And Ellie's still in high school trying to figure out, what he wants to do. So right now we're trying to raise money to help these children with college, or trade school or whatever they want. And we want to create, a fund for them to help cover their costs. Initially, we're just trying to raise $30,000 by Veterans Day. We're at, 5,000, just over 5,000 right now, which is like amazing. What we really want to do is give this money. The money will go right to the school. We want to make sure that these kids are staying on the straight and narrow, that they know that they can always rely on the men of Bravo 138 to be there if they have questions about their dad, what he meant to us. If just general life advice, like I think each one of us, the gentleman I listed, we all have like different perspectives and we all had our own path. So yeah, we're really trying to like raise money and make sure that they don't go off at the deep end. We want to send the money directly to the school or trade school, or if they don't do it and they go another route, find a use to like for that funds to like help them in their career, and have like a good life, because I couldn't imagine being that age and losing your father, especially when it's the terrorists didn't even get him. That's the worst part. They didn't even get him. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do. And a little bit about Michael Murphy. Or John Murphy, sorry. He was 14, or he was 44 years old. And I think everyone, at least everyone I know in Bravo 138, what they would say is he was a man who lived by honor. He really did. He really cared about doing the right thing. Even if it came at the detriment of a soldier making a mistake, he was there to enforce the standards, hold the line. And he really was a really good man. And I think it shocked all of us when we found out that he was no longer with us. So that's what we're trying to do. I think you're going to put, the GoFundMe and the show links.
Yeah.
But,
I just dropped it in there, you guys, and I put it out there this morning, and I'm gonna match the first $500 that people from this show donate, so we can at least get $1,000 from this today.
That'd be awesome.
I know the community that watches this show always tends to step up when we talk about causes such as this. So put that, it's over on YouTube right now, you guys, but I'm gonna put it up in the show notes for this today, as well as we're going to continue to share this out on social media up until Veterans Day on November 11th. And that's like the big push out there, you guys. So I know that this community and, again, inside of the transportation industry, there's millions of people that are veterans. There's at least 400,000 or 500,000 that are on the driver's side. And the amount of individuals that I know that are on, the warehousing side, the leadership side, all of that stuff. So this industry, steps up, and when it boils down to it, it's like it's gonna take such drastic measures by us as people to stop looking at the mental health of these individuals as just like a quick fix, and I feel like we I don't know, man. For me, we just got to get back to the way things were like when we were kids about a lot of this stuff, and really taking care of your neighbors and being there for your neighbors, so people don't feel forgotten. They don't feel that void that I would assume that
Yeah.
individuals feel, and they don't know who to reach out to, or even worse, they don't feel like they can reach out to people. And
Yeah.
it's, it's one of those things where it's like it only takes one, right? In the sense of like having one person that you can call at
Yeah.
any time of day, right? And this doesn't have to be like you have that person in your life. And you know what, maybe it's because I'm getting a little bit older, Matt, but I know I got a couple of people in my phone that if I needed to call at 2 a.m, I could reach out to. And I feel like that support system, and I know how a lot of guys think like, oh, I don't want to put that out there, but it's like you got people in your corner, and you just
Yeah.
got to be willing to ask for it.
Yeah, I think a couple of tangible things that people could take away is like, I remember when I was at another company, a regulator, a financial regulator, we were sending care packages to soldiers in Afghanistan. And they asked me like, "Oh, what should you do?" I'm like, "Well, don't just say right, thank you for your service." Well, like they don't know you, like that doesn't mean anything. And I remember this lady, supervisor came up and asked me, a manager, she came up and asked me, like, "What should I do?" I'm like, "Well, tell them what you're thankful for." And she wrote this beautiful card about like, "Thank you for like answering our nation's calling, so I can stay with my family and like I can live this amazing life because you said you'll go, so I don't have to." Um, I think veterans generally find that a lot better. I'm speaking for myself, but a couple others that I know, I think they would find that way more meaningful than just on Veterans Day saying thank you for your service. You're like, well, makes me kind of feel awkward because I'm like, well, I didn't really know you, and it's kind of just like a well, thanks, right? And
Yeah.
it's kind of how it comes across, and then the world of tolerance, right? Like just understand that these guys are probably going to have a different sense of humor, right? They're probably gonna make jokes that might be off coloring or something you don't know, and like just go like, well, this is what happens. I'm gonna accept them, give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's see what they can do. If you're looking for leadership positions, there's no better uh, there's no better school of leadership than what comes out of the military. And now, to be fair, military was great, but I saw some of the worst leaders the army has to offer, and then some of the best. There's kind of like a rare in between. But I took a leadership course at NYU, top business school, and I mean, the stuff that they were teaching there was just nonsense.
Yeah.
Didn't like the professors didn't know how to inspire, didn't know how to lead people. They didn't. They just were like, well, you got to pay people more, and you're like, well, that's not how that works. We had guys making, what, 15, 16,000 a year that were willing to die for their boss. I saw guys at Goldman Sachs that were like, if their boss got hit by a bus, they'd walk over him.
Yeah.
Like. So I think that giving when you find out somebody's a veteran, give them the benefit of the doubt. Like maybe that one benefit of the doubt and that one little bounce of the coin going their way like changes things. Right. I'm not saying give things to them, make them earn it for sure. But if you got a role and you're looking for a leader, like these guys figure out how to get stuff done. Yeah. Right. If they're infantry, artillery, cavalry, the combat arms jobs, they get stuff done. You give them a mission, they'll go get it done. They'll figure it out. And I think the more people realize that, I think everyone's organization can benefit from veterans. And like, even when I was first out of school, and like my bosses, when I was selling products at Best Buy, they're like, if I tell you exactly what go and sell, you're like a rabid dog. You go and sell that one thing again and again and again and again. But if I don't give you missions, you're kind of wandering around, talking, socializing. But if I give you missions, you go and hit them. Yeah. Right. And I think that's true with a lot of veterans. So I say be more tolerant, don't just say thank you for your service. Ask how you can help. Reach out to your local VFW, American Legion. We have more veterans today than probably, World War II. 20 years of war will do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, you're right. Everybody that I know that has served is that exact emulation that you're describing right there as an employee. And, and I think that I think a lot of people like they want to do more, Matt. I truly do. I just think that that appreciation factor is seemingly going away, and from the society, right? Like where it's like, oh, hey, thank you. Like they'll just stop right there. And what you said earlier about that your boss writing that letter about like why they're thankful for it, and it's like, and I've said this on this show in the past, and I'm going to say it again, right? right here and right now is like, I couldn't do over the last 5 years what I've done to build my company up in any other setting than the United States of America. I couldn't talk the shit that I talk on this show. I couldn't do the things that I've done without those sacrifices by men and women throughout our country's history to get us here. And that hasn't lost sight on me. And I hope more people come to realize that it goes deeper than that, right? And it's like it's showing that it's embodying and living the way that Americans used to live, and we got to get that back. But it has to start with the individual, right? Like at the end of the day, all of the changes that a lot of people like they'll post about and talk about generally stop right there because they're afraid to take action, you know? And I look at it like this, like at the end of the day, I'm going to live the life that I want to live. I am going to try my best to be the best man that I possibly can and lead by that example and set a higher standard, because I feel like at the end of the day, it's a standards issue first and foremost. That is why we are in the position that we're in, is people have such low standards, and we need to work on that as an individual and just start with that first step. We all look stupid when you take that first step, but I feel like if you know that there's others out there, you're going to be a lot more confident to take that first step forward about like, I got to raise the standards. I got to be the one that's going to fix it, because it starts with you and your little community. You don't need to be a social media influencer to make change out there. You know, I'll use this example. When I bought my house back in 2022, first time home buyer, 36 years old. Society was like, oh, that's so much older than everybody else. But regardless, the first thing I did is I hung an American flag on my house. And guess what happened to pop up in my neighborhood over the next 2 months? About 14 more American flags popped up after that one small action. I didn't go door to door. I didn't go knock on and say, hey, you should. I hung that up because, again, like I said, I was able to buy that home because of the country that I live in and the opportunities that are afforded to me. And I'm going to fully fucking exercise my rights, whether you want to hear it or not. I am going to fully exercise my fucking rights out here to honor everybody that has given me this opportunity.
Yeah, you know, it doesn't even matter if you're like pro Iraq, Afghanistan. It doesn't matter. What the reasons we went doesn't matter. What matters is you had a bunch of men and women that when the country said, "Hey, we need you," they were there. They said, "I'll go, so you don't have to." And every one of them, that's what makes the 9/11 veterans so special, similar to, you know, the World War II veteran class, is that we were attacked and they all said, "I'll go." They like clamored. I don't know if you've seen Band of Brothers, but you know, at the very beginning, you know, one of the gentlemen talked about how people in his hometown killed themselves because they couldn't go fight in World War II. And he said it was a different time. And I agree. But yeah, it doesn't matter your opinion on the war. Was it good? Was it bad? Was the government right or wrong? It doesn't matter. We need a country where we have men and women that are willing to step up when the nation calls. Because the fact of the matter is most people won't. And these are less than 6% of the population. Less than 6% is responsible for everyone's freedom. And I know for me, when I got out, it was hard. And the thing that really switched things for me is I went to Temple University in Philadelphia, and we were creating a veterans club. And one of the students had to walk through campus, and he was late. And he shows up in the room and he goes, "You know who created Temple?" And we had the dean of the business school there. I'm like, "No." And they're like, "A World War II or a Civil War veteran lost his buddy. And and to make up for his loss of life, he worked an additional 8 hours a day." And for me, I wasn't doing great in school. It was just kind of, okay, like that story changed something. So it wasn't about my friends who deployed and didn't come home anymore. It was about like, okay, I have this opportunity that, you know, the men and women who have died in Iraq, Afghanistan would kill for, literally kill for. So I need to make the most out of every day I have, because if I don't, I'm disrespecting them. And that's the kind of like mind shift that like changed me and helped me, you know, go from small country boy where we had one stoplight in our town. And we remember when it got put in, it's still the only stoplight in that town, to eventually making my way to working in a couple Wall Street banks, and having the great life that I do. And like, it's the men that I mentioned earlier that to me made this happen. Sure, I had to do the work, but they gave me the backbone, the fortitude to do it, and do it the right way by not cutting corners and making sure I live a life of honor and virtue. And without them, I don't think any of this is possible. I think I would have fallen off, just like other people, and would have continued to be lost. So, and I had a couple, I met a couple of people along the way that were not veterans that, gave me a shot. Like the coin bounce just flipped, right? I was prepared, but they gave me that shot, and that's what helped. And if you give a veteran a shot, like I think a lot of people would be pleasantly surprised, honestly.
I would agree with that, Matt. And I appreciate you taking the time to jump on here today and talk about this.
Yeah.
And, we're going to continue to push this message, you guys. And again, the GoFundMe link is in the YouTube comment section right now. If you want to jump over there and donate, you guys donate. And the amount doesn't matter, you guys.
No.
All right. And
$1, $5, it's anything is so
helps.
great.
All right. Everything helps to help support Sergeant Murphy's children here, to ensure that they get a leg up here in life. And, I appreciate you for joining me today, you guys. And that's going to be it. You guys know what to do. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out.